I now give the floor to representative of Ethiopia.
Thank you, Mr. President. I thank High Representative Zumi Nakamisu and Assistant Secretary General Edmund Muley for their respective briefings on the reports presented by the OPCW and the OPCW UN Joint Investigative Mechanism, which we have an obligation to examine and scrutinize very seriously and scrupulously. We appreciate all the efforts that have been made in investigating the use of chemical weapons in Syria, as well as in identifying those responsible for this serious crime. Our position on this issue has been reiterated many times. The use of chemical weapons by any actor, either state or non-state, is not only abhorrent, but also constitutes a serious violation of international law and a major threat to global peace and security. The continued use of chemical weapons in Syria is indeed a source of grave concern. At the latest fact-finding mission report on Latimana incident confirms, and we join other members in reiterating our condemnation in the strongest terms possible of these horrible and dreadful acts. That's why we support any and all efforts to hold those responsible for these heinous crimes accountable on the basis of robust and concrete evidence. In this regard, we appreciate the Joint Investigative Mechanism for its substantive report. Let me state here from the outset that we have the highest respect for the mechanism and its leadership. Mr. President, we understand the mechanism has been working under extremely challenging circumstances due to a highly sensitive political environment and complex security considerations, as its report rightly stated, as also reiterated by ASG Muley today. We respect and appreciate all the efforts and dedication by the leadership panel in carrying out their heavy responsibilities in spite of these difficulties, among which one should not overlook the fact that they were working under tremendous pressure of time. It is therefore totally unfair to expect an absolutely flawless work and result, which would obviate members of the Council asking for more explanation. It is in that spirit that we have tried to examine the report, which, no doubt, in many instances is very technical and thus requiring some technical knowledge in the area. In fact, the mechanism has been very careful in its analysis of this very complex situation. It says in the report, it examined two scenarios in detail, and its conclusion flows from those investigations, but they are careful enough in avoiding being entirely definitive. For instance, concerning the crater in Khan Shaykhun, even though they say the crater, quote, was most probably caused by a heavy object traveling at a high velocity, such as an aerial bomb, end of quotation, they nonetheless add that they, quote, could not rule out that the crater was caused by other means, end of quotation. This is important despite the qualification reiterated by ACG Muley a while ago that this is unlikely. Similarly, based on video footage confirmed to be authentic, Jim concluded that the Syrian aircraft was in the, quote, immediate vicinity of Khan Shaykhun between 6:30 and 700 on April 4, 2017, end of quotation. However, the same report stated that, and I quote, to date, the mechanism has not found specific information confirming whether or not the Syrian Air Force Sukhoi 22 operating from Al-Shairat airbase launched an aerial attack against Kamshikun, end of quotation. Again, Jim's report describes the sarin released at Kamshikun was most likely from the original stock of the Syrian Arab Republic. But the report adds that this analysis should warrant further study. Moreover, the report, both in its analysis and findings, admits that there are irregularities and discrepancies. Some of them, Jim accepts, are, quote-unquote, potentially important. As a result of this and other irregularities in the report itself, we find it difficult, with all fairness and genuine curiosity, how the mechanism could be confident that it has completed its work. Of course, we know the Jim was not able to visit the site of the attacks, particularly Kamshikun. Its report acknowledged that a visit to the site could have been of value, but then it says, as stated by ACG Moulay a while ago, the security risks outweigh the possible benefits to the investigation. It further stated that should conditions improve and it be determined that an on-site investigation would produce valuable new information, a visit could take place in the future. The problem is the Jim has already made its conclusion without having to visit the site, which in its own admission could have been of value to the investigation. Now, there is something which should be mentioned here. ASG Moulay said the government of the Syrian Arab Republic has provided good cooperation. This was particularly true in connection with the visit of Al-Shairat airbase and its examination of the logbooks and flight information for April 4, 2017. The information secured did not seem to confirm the conclusion the mechanism subsequently made, again suggesting the need for more work to be done. Mr. President, now, it's important to be fair to the mechanism and the leadership panel. They cannot be asked to deliver more than what they have promised to deliver pursuant to the method of work that is laid out in Annex 1 of its third report. What is expected of them is to identify the culprits to the greatest extent feasible. And it might not be proper to require that their conclusion meet the standard of overwhelming evidence or even substantial evidence. But for sure, it would be fair to expect the conclusion be in conformity with the standard of sufficient evidence. No doubt, they have covered a lot of ground, and the findings so far cannot in any way thrown out the window, but they are not definitive. This is work in progress for which the leadership panel deserves a lot of credit. Without there would be any delegation that could impugn their integrity. But it's very difficult now to conclude the work has been completed. More work is needed. Because of this and other new cases which need to be investigated, we are convinced that it is vital to renew the mandate of Jim, and we hope we'll be able to do so by overcoming the differences within the Council on the matter. It is only through unity of purpose that the Council could address the threat and use of chemical weapons in Syria, as well as end its further use by any actor. I thank you, Mr. President.